Hello friends, looking at current affairs for 7th June. The news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 12. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, tax interface not ready for GST. So taxpayers interface which is required under GST. So we have seen goods and services tax. So GST would be put into effect from 1st July 2017. It is less than a month now. And there is a GST network, the infrastructure backbone, the IT, information technology infrastructure backbone for GST to come into effect, because the taxpayers would have to put in their details. As we know, it is a value added tax, so at every stage value addition the details have to be brought in so that tax remittances can also be sought, because tax has to be only on value addition. So extra tax which is paid has to be remitted, it will be returned back by the government. So for this, the GST network has to be in place, and this infrastructure, IT infrastructure, has been developed. What the government has provided for is GSPs. So these are goods and services tax suvidha providers. So there are 34 GSPs approved so far under the GST network. There would be an interface between the GST and the tax remitters. So they'll have to put in all the details here. You can see registration, challan details, invoice uploading, returns filing, ledgers, all these have to be put in on the GST network. So this will be facilitated through these GSPs. So this is what is being, this is the GSP ecosystem you can see here, which is provided for. So this will be linked to the GST network. So the GSPs here, the 34 GSPs, out of them, some are saying that their GSP software is not yet ready. So it will not be ready, it will take some months to be ready. Some GSPs are saying that their software is ready, but they are saying that still the software compatibility between the GSP and the GST network has not even started yet. So it is going to take time for this GSPs to be put into effect. So GSPs are easing, facilitating the networking of the tax remitters to the GST network. So all the details uploading which has to be done of documents is facilitated. So, but it is stated that this is not the only way that linking to GST network can take place. So GST network can be linked to, maybe the government may not extend the deadline and it may ask the taxpayers to do it offline. Documents be provided offline. It may also ask them to use other government portals, which can then be linked to GST network. So some temporary provision may be made if the government is not going to extend the deadline, because GSPs are not going to be in place is evident here. So this is there. Another thing which is pointed out is that e-way billing system. So this e-way billing system also we have done earlier. So this is the billing system which is required, because in transportation, how the goods have to be treated while in transportation. So this e-way bill system has been, it's an electronic way bill. So way bill system is always there. So that has to be, in place with all, means the transporter, the supplier, the person who will receive it. So one who is supplying it, that someone who will be receiving it, and the transporter. All of them have to have this e-way bill number through which this transportation is carried out, so that government can keep a track on goods in transportation also. So this e-way billing system also has to be rolled out, and it is also not ready yet. So government has already said that this rollout will be delayed. So now this may also be stated by the government that GSPs will be put in place later, but GST can come into effect. So we'll have to wait and watch what is the government's decision and statement coming forth. Then the next news item is 5 killed as police fire on MP farmers. So this is regarding the protest by farmers since 1st June 2017 in Madhya Pradesh districts. So here we have seen that police started fire on the farmers, and 5 farmers have died and 2 are critically injured. So you are seeing that farmers' protests are taking place, as we are seeing in Maharashtra too. Here it became violent, and the demand is the same. They want loans to be waived off, and they want better prices for their produce. The minimum support price support which is provided by the government. So these are their major demands. The next is IMD predicts more rains this summer. So this is regarding Indian Meteorological Department. So IMD had made its forecast in April 2017 when it said that India would receive near normal monsoons. That means near normal, the terminology means 96% of long period average. So this long period average, LPA, is also a term in weather forecasting used by Indian Meteorological Department, which means that it is the 50-year average of the monsoon rains in India. So this 96% of LPA means near normal. Now it has updated its forecast, and IMD has stated that India would receive normal monsoons, that is 98% of LP. So means this 2% update increase has been done to the prediction, and this has been done because it is coming forth now that the El Nino conditions which have been developing, El Nino would not be strong enough, and because it would be weak, then this would be good for the monsoons. If El Nino is strong, then monsoons are adversely affected. So this is the positive development. Also another aspect, another phenomena which affects Indian monsoon is Indian Ocean dipole. So if Indian Ocean dipole is positive, then it is good for monsoons. So even a positive Indian Ocean dipole is expected. So based on these, the IMD has given its forecast. So you should know about El Nino also. You should know about Indian Ocean dipole also. We'll see what is all this about. And also another thing is dynamical model. So IMD has shifted from 1st April 2017 to dynamical model for monsoon forecasting. So this dynamical model is working through supercomputers. So the weather is simulated and extrapolation is done about how the weather would be in future. So it is how predictions are given. Earlier it was using the statistical model for forecasting, and presently also the June 2017 update presently which has been done is done on the basis of statistical model, which it has been using for so long. So this forecast of the monsoon is based on 6 meteorological parameters. So based on this, the update has been done. The private weather forecaster, Skymet, it has not changed its forecast. It has stuck to its forecast of below normal monsoon at 95% of long period average. So this is a private weather forecast as such too. So we'll have to wait and watch how monsoon comes forth too, and whether the dynamical model is better than the statistical model or not. So the error margin are there. Error margin in the statistical model is also plus minus 8%. This Skymet error margin is also, you can see, plus minus 5%. So this is there. So to know, understand about El Nino and Indian Ocean dipole, you can see El Nino, it affects pattern that a year there will be El Nino and then there would be no El Nino. So there is no pattern as such too, but generally 6 out of 10 years El Nino adversely affects the Indian monsoon. So these El Nino conditions develop when the equatorial Pacific Ocean water warms up more than normal. So if it warms up more than half a degree, then it results in El Nino conditions developing and monsoon affected. We'll see the details of this El Nino too. And Indian Ocean dipole is based on the Indian Ocean temperature. So the western Indian Ocean alternately becomes warmer and cooler than the eastern part of the Indian Ocean. So these temperature swings are called Indian Ocean dipole. So if there is a positive Indian Ocean dipole, so a positive Indian Ocean dipole means western Indian Ocean is warmer than the eastern part. So this is good for Indian monsoon, that is positive Indian Ocean dipole, and negative is bad. So this is also there. So you can see here the El Nino, La Nina conditions are discussed, and even Indian Ocean dipole. So here you can see this is the Pacific Ocean. You can see this is South America, this is Australia, and then Southeast Asia, and beyond lies India. So what happens is that this water, this is the Pacific Ocean here. So the Pacific Ocean water here becomes warmer than normal. So when it becomes warmer than normal, then the air above it also becomes warm. So when air above becomes warm, evaporation takes place, and you can see here cloud formation takes place and precipitation also takes place in this region. So this is because of this, then the temperatures here, the water here becomes cooler, and the cloud formations do not take place here, and this region turns out to be dry. Australia, Southeast Asia, and even India. So this is El Nino condition. Normally the temperatures are cooler here and warmer here. So this is the normal condition, that temperatures are warmer here, and because of this the precipitation, because when temperatures are warm, air above becomes warm, that means evaporation takes place, warm air, it rises up, clouds are formed, and this precipitation takes place here. So this is the normal condition when normal monsoons are there. El Nino condition, when monsoons are adversely affected, it would be dry. And La Nina condition is an intense form of normal condition. So it's what happens normally only, that here it's warm, here it's cool. Water here is warm and here is cool in Pacific Ocean. But then the warmth here is more than normal. And this is more than cool, normal cooler. So that means very good monsoon. So La Nina means very good monsoon. El Nino means bad monsoon for India. So here it is detailed out too. So this is El Nino, warming of the central and eastern tropical Pacific, and La Nina is the reverse. So this is there. So this occurs in a cycle. So El Nino and Southern Oscillation is the terminology ENSO used to. Pacific Ocean temperatures, it changes in a cycle. So El Nino, Southern Oscillation. Feedback loop is the temperature of the waters affect the temperature of the air above it, and this is the feedback loop which is developed. So it amplifies a small change in ocean water is amplified in the atmosphere and precipitation as it takes place. So this is the two most important drivers for El Nino which affect the El Nino Southern Oscillation is the temperature gradient across the Pacific. So temperature gradient is the difference between the temperature in the two regions. So that is one major factor which affects both off the surface and below the surface. So on the surface, water body, and above also the air above. So these temperature gradients are the two major factors which drive El Nino Southern Oscillation. Then El Nino, the term comes from Spanish term which means boy child. It's a Spanish term. So it is named so because it appears around Christmas during the time of birth of Jesus Christ. So that's why it's known as boy child. And the La Nina is the reverse of it. So it translates in Spanish as girl child. So this is it. Then Indian Ocean Dipole. So Indian Ocean Dipole is also known as Indian Nino. So this is irregular oscillation. Again, El Nino is also irregular. There's no fixed pattern. So Indian Nino, Indian Ocean Dipole is irregular oscillation of sea surface temperatures of Indian Ocean. So Western or Indian Ocean becomes alternately warmer and cooler than the eastern part of the oceans. So this, if it's positive, Indian Ocean Dipole is positive, means the Western Indian Ocean is warmer than normal. So this means above greater than average sea surface temperatures means greater precipitation. When temperatures are high, then precipitation also takes place in this region because then evaporation takes place. Warm air lighter goes up, cool air comes down. So warm air rising up with the water vapor, it results in cloud formation and precipitation. So this results in precipitation on the Western Indian Ocean region, means it is good for India. And negative phase of Indian Ocean Dipole means warmer water and greater precipitation in the Eastern Indian Ocean. So cooler and drier conditions in the western part. So this is what is there. So Indian Ocean Dipole affects the monsoon in India as well. Then the next news item is child-friendly HIV drug gets government nod. So this was in news earlier too because lopinavir syrup. So this is a child-friendly HIV drug. So this is milder version too. This syrup had stopped supply because Cipla, the sole manufacturer of this lopinavir syrup, had stopped production. And the reason given by it was that government, it was providing it to the government, National Aid Control Organization. So government had not paid the previous bills. So because of this, it had stopped supply manufacture and it had resulted in lopinavir syrup being out in the market. It was out of the market. So now the decision which has been taken is that Central Drug Standard Control Organization has registered the child-friendly HIV drug in oral pellet forms. So these oral pellets are in the form of capsules. So these can be sprinkled over the food. So this is child-friendly drug, same lopinavir, ritonavir. So this drug has been registered by Central Drug Standard Control Organization. So this will end months of uncertainty over HIV drug for children. So because for children who cannot consume a capsule, for them these heat stable pellet formulations of this HIV drug are there. So they can be sprinkled, they cannot be crushed, they cannot be stirred as such into food, they can just be sprinkled on the food, a small amount of soft food, and can be consumed. For infants also, they can be mixed with a spoonful of breast milk and can be provided to the infant. It can be placed on the infant's tongue too. So this is the child-friendly oral pellet which has now been registered. So this you should know, lopinavir. The next is Supreme Court reserves order on postgraduate quota for in-house students. So this is regarding Aligarh Muslim University and Banaras Hindu University. So for these two universities, postgraduate courses, 50% reservation is provided for in-house students. So in-house graduates, they go to the postgraduate course. So this has been challenged and the Allahabad High Court had given its decision that this 50% in-house students reservation should be set aside. So the Supreme Court is being appealed on this matter and Supreme Court has reserved its order. It would be looking into this issue and giving its judgment. So remaining 50% seats are filled through NEET. So NEET test which is conducted through them, the remaining 50% are filled. What was demanded was that entire seats should be opened up. So how this case is looked into by Supreme Court, we will come to know in a few days. Then the next news item is Press Club against curbs on media. So recently there was this news of CBI raids on the premises of NDTV promoters. So this CBI raids have been criticized by various personalities. It has been said to be an attempt to intimidate the media or curb its freedom. So earlier too, NDTV India news channel had been specifically picked out and targeted by the present government at the center. So the government denies that there is any illicit intention behind this, but then the demands are being made that the reasons, the case which has been filed by CBI should be put up in the public domain and the facts should come out. Then next is Navy eyes advanced subs. So this is again regarding the Project 75 and Project 75I. So under Project 75, India has acquired 6 Scorpene submarines from France. So these are diesel powered submarines. So these submarines have been constructed under technology transfer by Mazagon Docks Limited, Mumbai. And the first submarine Kalvari is set to join the Indian Navy in August 2017. So all 6 will be inducted by 2022. There were talks of having 3 more submarines acquired, but now the Indian Navy says that we would not be going ahead with these Scorpene submarines. Anyway, they have been delayed. Plus, we are having Project 75I in place. So this Project 75I is to have advanced submarines, which will be developed by Make in India in Defense under the strategic partnership model. So we have already discussed about this. So this strategic partnership model will provide us with advanced submarines, which will be equipped with air independent propulsion modules. So this will help in better reach and stealth characteristics to the submarines. So this air independent propulsion modules are not there in Scorpene. So we would be going ahead with this advanced submarines under Project 75I rather than acquiring more than 6 submarines from Scorpene submarines from France. So this is being stated here. So this deal was signed in 2005 and has been delayed, and finally in 2017 the first submarine will join the Navy. So this is there. So Project 75I, under which again 6 submarines would be, advanced submarines would be developed under Make in India under strategic partnership model. It is expected to cost around 50,000 crore and the tender process will begin soon. Next, Sher Bahadur Deoba elected Nepal's Prime Minister for 4th time. So Nepali politician Sher Bahadur Deoba, who has been Prime Minister of Nepal 3 times earlier, has now been elected as Nepal's Prime Minister for a 4th time. So the main opposition party decided to end obstruction to parliament. So earlier we had seen in May 2017, Maoist leader Prachanda had resigned from the Prime Minister's post and a power sharing deal was agreed up to with the Nepali Congress leader. So now Sher Bahadur Deoba, the Nepali Congress leader, has been elected as the Nepal's Prime Minister. So the parliament has elected him. He was the sole candidate contesting. So the deadlock in the parliament has ended now, and he is the one who is going to oversee the local level elections which are to be held now. Even the provincial elections will be conducted, and finally the parliamentary elections in Jan 2018 under the new constitution. So they will be overseen by him. He was earlier the Prime Minister of Nepal under the monarchy too. So under monarchy, he was there from 95 to 97. You can see the details provided here. In 2005, finally, he was sacked by the then King Gyanendra Shah because he failed to hold elections and bring Maoist rebels to roundtable negotiations. So in 2008, finally, monarchy was abolished from Nepal. Even Maoists handed over arms and have joined the parliamentary government as such here. So you can see Maoist leader Prachanda was the Prime Minister of Nepal as well. So now normalcy has come into the parliamentary system in Nepal too, and hopefully once the election process is completed till the parliamentary level, we'll have a new government in place in Nepal under the fresh constitution formed after abolition of monarchy. The next, hackers breached voting software firm. So this is a leaked intelligence report of National Security Agency of US, which is saying that Russian hackers attacked at least one US voting software supplier days before the 2016 presidential elections. So this has come forth now. So these spear phishing means specifically targeting emails had been sent to around 100 local election officials by Russian hackers. So Russian military agency attacked US voting software company. So this is coming forth in the leaked intelligence report, but then Russia is denying that we had not undertaken any such action. So Russian intelligence obtained and maintained access to elements of multiple US state and local electoral boards. So this is also stated in this intelligence report. So this has been a huge controversy. It is stated that President Donald Trump was supported because of Russian hacking, that he came to the president's post, and also he has sacked, President Donald Trump has sacked the FBI chief who was investigating into this Russian hacking in presidential elections case. And now this leaked intelligence report has come out speaking about this Russian hand in twisting the presidential election results. So whether the results were twisted or not has not been specifically mentioned, but then there was attempt made, that is clearly stated. Next is Center notifies rules on capital gains tax. So the Central Board of Direct Taxes has come out with a final notification in which it is specifying those securities transactions that would attract capital gains tax. So if securities transactions tax have not been paid, then capital gains tax would be applicable. Of course, there are exemptions to this too, which are also listed. So what is the securities transactions tax and capital gains tax? We should understand that first. So the securities transaction tax was a tax levied on all transactions done on stock exchanges at rates prescribed by the central government from time to time. So this was put forth into the Finance Act of 2004 and it came into effect from 1st October 2004. So the securities transaction, you can see the kind of transaction done and the rate at which this tax would be payable. And who would pay it? The purchaser or the seller is listed here. So this is the latest details in place like of the financial year 2015-16. So this securities transaction tax have to be paid. And then there is capital gains tax also which have to be paid. So capital gains tax is a tax which is paid on any capital gain which is made. So when you sell an asset, a capital gain is done. On that, you have to pay a tax. So it is also a tax paid. So you can see capital gains with sale of assets. And also this can be short-term or long-term capital assets. So short-term is generally for less than 36 months. If it is held for less than 36 months, then it's known as short-term capital gain. And if it is held for more than 36 months, then it's a long-term capital asset. And accordingly, a tax is put. You can see short-term and long-term. So capital gains tax amount is also, percentage is also mentioned here. So assets, capital assets can be stocks and shares too. You can see other assets are also listed: bonds, gold, equity, oriented mutual funds. So here when this stocks, shares already have a securities transaction tax. So that's why you can see here there's a star mentioned and it says that if securities transaction tax is paid, then this is the tax. So this actually means that you have to pay either of the two taxes, but then the exemptions are also there. So people used to take advantage of these exemptions to securities transaction tax, and capital gains tax was also not paid because securities transaction tax is applicable. So to bridge this, fill this loophole, now the government has come up with a notification saying that if securities transaction tax has not been paid, then capital gains tax would be applicable. So this is the clarification given here. Of course, there are some genuine exemptions which would be there. So for them, an exemption here has also been made. So these are the details which have come out in the notification. One of them exemption is specially for ESOP. So these are employees, for the employees. So stock ownership plan is given. So ESOP is employee stock ownership plan. So in this, employees are provided with the ownership of stocks of the company. So in such cases is a profit sharing plan. So employers also benefit because taxation should not be applicable, and these also employees are also made to be a part of the company, have a stake in the shares of the company, and they also benefit out of it. So this is the ESOP plan. So for such cases too, exemptions have still been provided. So these are the details which have come forth in this new notification by Central Board of Direct Taxes. So you should know about these two taxes. It's specifically mentioned from 1st October 2004 onwards. So this is the time when securities transaction tax was put into effect. Then the next news item is private banks rates cut lower than average. So the RBI data which has come forth now says that median benchmark lending rates of commercial banks have fallen by 90 basis points. While for private banks, it has fallen only by 70 basis points since April 2016. So this last 1 year data put forth is showing that private banks have not cut their lending rates to the extent that commercial banks have. So this is though MCLR has been put into effect. So MCLR is marginal cost of funding based lending rate. So this MCLR regime has been put into effect for all banks from 1st April 2016. Earlier base rate regime was used, now this is MCLR regime used. So what is the difference between the two and what does it mean? We'll understand. So here you can see MCLR is the minimum rate of interest below which a bank cannot lend the loans. So this is an interest rate which is calculated. So the calculation for this is including the marginal cost of funds which the banks have with them. So marginal cost of funds is seen, the tenor premium, the premium which it has to pay for particular tenures, that is added to it. Operating expenses are included under it. The cost of CRR, all these are taken into consideration, and then MCLR is decided. And MCLR has to be updated on a monthly basis. So earlier when RBI would change its repo rate, the changes would not be reflected in banks' lending rates. But with MCLR in place, this reflection would be quicker and it would result in the changes being passed on to the consumers too, to the market economy too. So this is what marginal cost of fund based lending rate tries to achieve. So here it is mentioned, as you see, the banks cuts it. So for instance, it's given if a bank cuts its 1-year deposit rate, its 1-year MCLR rate will also see a decline. Whereas in case of base rate, that did not happen. So this is better than the earlier base rate system which was used. So presently the news specifically is that private banks are still not having a cut done as expected. So of course government cannot, RBI cannot scrutinize each and every bank and see how they are calculating that MCLR, but it has to be in place. So after demonetization, we saw that many banks cut MCLR sharply. So their costs of funds fell. That's why they have cut their MCLR too. So SBI, State Bank of India, led because it's the country's largest lender. So its MCLR was cut by 120 basis points here during this time by 2. It has come to 8%. ICICI Bank, which is the country's largest private sector lender, also cut its MCLR by 100 basis points. So it is 8.2% now. So it varies from banks to banks depending on their marginal cost of funding too. Then the last news item is Arundhati Roy's new novel goes on sale. So Arundhati Roy, who has been a Booker Prize winner for her debut novel, The God of Small Things, in 1997, after around 20 years now, she has come up with her new novel, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. So she says it took 10 years to produce this novel. In the meantime, she had been into non-fiction writing. She was writing essays, articles, issues on poverty, globalization, conflict in Kashmir, etc. So in this book also, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness, the troubles of Kashmir Valley are discussed. Even the Maoist problem in central India are being looked into in this fiction novel which she has brought out now, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. So these are the news items. Thank you.